All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the TPM webinar. Today's webinar is going to be about maximizing or basically maximizing efficiency with Bluebeam and streamlining punch lists with room management. All right, so we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to go ahead and get the ball rolling here. I'm going to first start by going into our Revit architectural software. So one of the big things here and the reasons why that we're looking at room management is because when clients are working inside of Revit architecture, most times they have rooms set up in their plans, right? So with that, when you just export or print a PDF the normal way within Revit, you can't really maximize these rooms that have already been input into the floor plans. So what we're going to be doing is working with the add-in or the plugin that comes with Bluebeam to allow for us to go ahead and create a PDF, but leveraging some of the data that comes with these floor plans without having to repeat those functions inside of Bluebeam. All right, so I have a typical floor plan here set up. One of the first things that I want to do, because when we get into Bluebeam, I do want to show you how you can go in and create additional rooms and spaces if need be. So I'm just going to delete a couple of rooms here, getting our warning from Revit letting us know that those room objects still are a part of the project. I've already gone ahead and went to the add-ins tab, but of course, if you have not, if you've just opened up Revit for the first time, you can of course go to the add-ins tab and you should see your Bluebeam add-in there. Before we go in and say create PDF or try to print anything, we do want to go in and take a look at our settings for our Bluebeam export. Within this, we have this dialog box that will show us a lot of macro data or micro data that we can associate with this PDF once we export it out. One of the key things that we want to do, especially because we're wanting to pull spaces from the rooms that are already in our floor plan, we will need to make sure to check export rooms to spaces. You can also go another step further. If you want to get some area measurement data automatically, you can go ahead and say export rooms to area measurements, even subtracting the openings from those measurements. So you're not limited to just spaces. You can also get some measurement data. So that may save you a step on the back end if you're marking up some plans inside of Revit, inside of Review. The other thing that we want to talk about, because we will have to actually go through the create PDF button on that add-in tab, we're not going to be able to go in and say file print because when we do file print, it loses that metadata that is inside of your floor plan. What we'll need to do is make sure we tell it what to plot. So you can do your current viewer sheet. You can also do all sheets, which may save you some time, as well as you can go in and say selected views and sheets. So one of the big things here, once you choose that option, it will bring up this view sheet set. With this view sheet set, you can of course see all of the views that are associated with this set or this project. You can also filter out or turn off specific elements that you may or may not want to see. So for instance, we could say check none, and then we could say, hey, we just want to see all of the sheets. Another thing that you can manage while you're inside of this before you go ahead and click create PDF is you can move elements around. So if sheets are not in the correct location, you can use those up and down arrows to move them in place before you go ahead and print out or export out this PDF. Once we've done that, we can say okay. We can then also say okay again. So now our settings are ready to go. You do need to do this for every project because of course it's not going to remember, as well as most projects are going to be different. You may not have the same sheets that you do in one project versus the other. So we want to make sure that we're good there. We're going to go ahead and click create PDF. For the sake of this webinar, I've already created that PDF for us. So I'm just going to switch into Bluebeam. So here we are inside of Bluebeam. This is not the floor that we changed or removed those rooms from, but we will go ahead and go to that sheet now. One of the nice things too, and I'll go back into Revit really quickly, is that with that additional data, if you want to, you can go ahead and actually have bookmarks enabled as well. This will actually help navigation out inside of Review a little bit easier. You can see that I'm seeing the view or the sheet titles and the sheet numbers also already in there. So you don't have to go and create those. But including those bookmarks, if you did not see them when you open up that PDF, you can leverage the bookmarks when creating sheet titles. Let me expand that a little bit there. All right, so we can see those sheet titles. We can also see the scale. That's not correct right now, but of course we do know how to go ahead and fix that inside of Bluebeam as well. So now that I've located that sheet or that floor plan that did not have the rooms set up, that we deleted those two in the space, you can see that we have this bluish tint on this floor plan. Wherever that bluish tint is means that there are rooms and spaces. How do we see these rooms and spaces? Because right now on my screen, I can't see anything other than the fact that these areas are blue. In the Review Advanced profile, you can find the Spaces button over to the right-hand side if you haven't made any modifications to that profile. You can see here we have a list of the sheets with the rooms or spaces on them. It breaks them down per the section or the page that they're on. You could have also, inside of Revit, set up your rooms to be shown on elevation. So if you're doing wall punch lists or anything like that, and you want to be a little bit more detailed than just putting a note on a floor plan, we could have also included the rooms on our elevations as well, and they would have been translated into spaces. But since we don't have these, and say for instance you're getting this set of plans from someone that did not leverage the plugin, how do you go in and create additional rooms or spaces inside of your plans? Well, while we're inside of the spaces function, we do have that option up at the top here to be able to add additional spaces. So let's go ahead and click on that button. And it's going to give us the ability, it's going to change our cursor to a crosshair. And I'm just going to click a parameter around. So give me a little bit of time here. I'm going to try to be as accurate as possible because we can, of course, get additional data from this, not just the room name. Come on. There we go. And once I close out that polygon, it's going to give me the option to name it. So we know that in this floor plan, or at least I know, this was considered the mechanical room. So I'm just going to type in MECH with a period there on the end. You can see that space fills in. For this one, I'm just going to do a click and drag. So we'll do a bathroom here. Okay. So now that we have those spaces in there, we can go ahead and start taking a look at punch listing elements, like we're doing our walkthrough, final walkthrough, or whatever it may be, or we're still in the middle of the construction process, but we want to catch some elements before the building's completely done. So what we'll do is we're going to go over to our tool chest. Now, inside of the default profile of Revit Advanced, you probably won't see these paint issues here or the flooring issues or carpentry issues. That is actually a part of the field issues profile, but I went ahead and imported them in to this Revit Advanced profile for the sake of this webinar to bring those in and show you guys how those function. So we do have some paint issues here. We're going to go and place some of these elements inside of our plan, but before we do that, we're going to take a look at our markups list really quick. So let me expand that back and then go into our markups list down at the bottom of our screen. You may notice that these columns look a little bit different from yours if you're just opening Bluebeam or you haven't made any modifications to your markups list. There are things like status and space that may not be in the same location. How do we bring up spaces? Because we do want that to help us whenever we export out our markups list to know where these elements live or where these punch items live in our building. So if we go to markups list, we'll go to columns just to see what's turned on, as well as you want to make sure that spaces is turned on. And for the sake of this, I will also have status turned on because I want to be able to tell someone when I mark this up, whether, I've marked it up, somebody else is looking at it, they can go in and change the status of a markup. So say you've made your punch list, they've corrected the issues, you're making your next round to make sure those items have been taken care of. you can set statuses to those punches that you've already placed, so you don't have to go and add duplicate information to your floor plan. So that's why we're going to have the status column turned on. Before we add anything else to the markups list, and I know I keep saying before we add, but before we put anything on our views here, I do want to go ahead and check my status settings, because we can add some visual representation of the status without just having them say a standard solid color. So right now all of my punch items are red, but maybe I want them to show green when they're accepted or they've been done, so on and so forth. When you click on the settings inside of the status column, we get the manage status pop out. And in that pop out dialog box here, we have two that are already created. You can add additional ones. You don't have to go with the standard out of the box ones. So if your company has language for how punches are handled or the statuses that they should be set to, you can create an entirely different model to add your statuses within. We're going to work with what's coming from Bluebeam directly here. So we're going to be looking at the review status. That review status is going to have accepted, rejected, canceled, completed, and none. I do want to go in and add some additional ones or modify one of the ones like this one that says none. I do want to make it a needs review. So I'm going to modify this one first and say needs. Let's see if it'll let me change it. It will not. So let's go ahead and create one instead then. Let's say view or punch. Say walkthrough. All right. So we're going to add accepted. And what we're going to do is, since it's accepted, we're going to make sure that the color changes to green when it is accepted. I know this is a little exaggerated of a green, but it does stand out. We're going to add another one. We're going to say that this one is rejected. And we're going to make that color pink. Add a couple more. So we're going to do one more that's called canceled. If I can spell today. I'm going to make that one purple, and then we will add one more that we're going to make yellow. I may go back and change one of those colors to orange, but let's go in and make this on hold or needs review. And we're going to make that yellow. Okay, so I'm going to go back in and make rejected orange in case I have some Barbie fans in the crowd. Don't want to offend anybody by making pink rejected. So we are going to make that orange for this one. And we're going to say, okay, I can uncheck these two as well because I just want to work with the ones that I just created so I don't have any confusion of my accepted status or the other ones that are the same on that status list there. So now that we have those created, I'm going to go through and do a few punches on this building. If I want to see what these are, I can go to a detail view. That way I can see exactly what they are. If, you know, say you're new to the company, you don't know what the acronyms mean just yet. So you may want to go ahead and change those to detail view so we can see those, right? So first things first, I do want to do a painting here. So I'm just going to say that, hey, there's an issue with bubbles on the surface. You can see grabbing that from my list, I can add that punch item directly to that list. Now, if I have an issue where, say, there's needing to be a sanding and finishing, say they need to sand it and reprime it, I'm actually going to use one of these that are already in my list. I'm going to put it over here, but I'm going to make some modifications to it. So I'm going to say S&P, and then also in the settings, I want to go in and change the information or the note that comes with it or the comment that shows up. So I'm going to say sand and primer needed. All right, so that's done. So I need to add this to my markups list, or at least to my tool set here. So that way when we do create a legend at the end, it will be there. So I'm going to add this to the paint issues so you can see it shows up right there. I do have a duplicate. I'm going to delete that from my list. That way I don't have any confusion. We're going to continue adding a few different other elements from the other categories that I have. We're going to let them know that they put the wrong tile in the bathroom or inside of the living area, even though that's actually carpet. So let's put it in the laundry room there. And then maybe in the kitchen and dining area, we will say that there's a chip in the tile. So similar to what we did with the paint, we're just gonna create by double clicking there. We're gonna say CT. And we're gonna make sure to go to the properties and say chipped tile. All right. And as we did, let's go ahead and add that to our flooring issue so that way we have it. Now, as I'm adding these to my tool sets, I do need to go ahead and make sure to save these because this will be very beneficial when we go in to create our legend that we want to place on our sheet as well for easy access. Last but not least, let's take a look at some of our carpentry issues. Let's say that the door hardware doesn't lock on both of these bathrooms. And let's go ahead and say that, you know, there's some trim damage. I'm gonna put that over here because it probably got banged up as they were moving stuff in. So the trim's damaged there. All right. So once we have those markups, we can take a look at a markups list. You can see that we have all of our markups on our plan. We have the carpentry issues, our comment. So maybe I want to move that comment over to here. So I just click and drag that in my markups list, but you can see we have a hardware issue. Both of those are in the hall. We have the trim damage repair. That's there. We have our chip tile. We have our sand and primer needed as well, which is not showing us where that is right now. So let's move it into the room a little bit so that way it can read that information. So if you see where it's like not showing you the space, that might be because it's not, a majority of that markup is not inside of the space. So that's why it's gonna read incorrectly. So you might wanna move those around if you're not seeing that information. So from here, we need to change the status. Let me go ahead and minimize my tool set. And say, for instance, we're only gonna do a few, but say they've gone in and they've repaired this issue. We're going back through with our walkthrough. We want to set a status. You can double click on it in the status space and we can say accepted. And you can see how that color automatically changes for that markup. We can go here. Maybe they didn't get everything, so this needs review, right? So it has that yellow color. If we go into our chip tile, I'm just double clicking or selecting this element from my markups list to go around my PDF, but this element was canceled. It was just a speck on the floor. It was needed to be cleaned. So there we go. And then our primer, we're going to say that this was rejected. It was not done. So they need to go back in and do it. As I'm adding these statuses to this, you can see that it's letting the people know. So when I send this PDF out, it'll let them know exactly what status it's set to. It'll also tell them who changed the status. So this will keep record of that. It will also tell us when exactly down to the millisecond, basically, when it was actually changed as far as to a status goes. So you can get really detailed here. This helps keep that single source of truth as you're doing your markups, as well as it again is helping with that efficiency, keeping all of this documentation digital, which also helps with retention, you know, as you go along and keeping your records clear as well. So if I go into, I do want to add a legend to my view, leveraging all three of these tool sets. So first thing, I'm going to go into one of them and say legend and create new legend. Once I do that, you can see that I do have underneath my cursor to place that paint issues. Now we're going to go in and add these additional ones, which means we're going to need to change the title. So going to the flooring issues, saying legend and telling it to go to the paint issues, we'll add that information in. And let's see, we have our other one. Let me make sure it's saved. Okay. And we're going to add this to the legend as well. All right. So you're probably saying, okay, I don't see everything in here, but let's go ahead and make some adjustments to bring that information through. So we're going to change our title. We're going to say 2023-09-14 walkthrough. All right, so that's my title. I do want to go in and modify my columns so that way I can get that additional information. So let's go in and add, we're going to add statuses. We're also going to go ahead and add our spaces, make sure that's turned on. Oops, spaces there. Comments. All right, so there's some information that we're adding to that. And I want to sort it. Let's do by space. I'm still getting a little bit of filtration here, so I want to make sure, see if we can get everything to show up for us. I'll have to see why that's not working. Maybe a follow-up here. It should show our additional information like our CT here, which is our tip towel. I do want to add another one just to see if it'll respond. Yeah, I'll take a look at that off of the webinar and add some additional information to the end of this webinar, or to the notes from the email to follow that up, just for sake of time. But we can add that legend in, giving us some of that information that we need so somebody can easily access that if they need to. But from there, of course, we can go in and give them a more detailed issuance of the issues by exporting out our markups list or even appending it to the end of our PDF. But here, let's say we want to do this individually without adding that append and hyperlink function. So we're going to uncheck append and hyperlink. And before I go any further, I want to go into my columns and make sure that some of the information that I may not need, since I'm only doing my punch, I can get rid of the colors, unless you want those in there to show your status colors. We can also scroll down our list to make sure anything else that we don't need is there. Don't want the legend included in that markups list. We simply just want our subject, our page label, the comments, of course, and you can see that's giving us the sample of what that information is on there. So I'm gonna say okay. It's going to create that markup for us, or that markups list for us. You can see here we're getting that entire markup summary, just letting us know where those elements are and what they are, so you can go back and mark those off on your list. One of the convenient factors of if we had appended and hyperlinked those elements to this PDF is that we would be able to click on those directly and it would take us directly to those markups. But if we're just sending this out or keeping it as a record outside of that PDF, we don't need to do that.
Thanks, Brody. Yeah, appreciate that awesome webinar and the rundown of how Bluebeam can be leveraged for the punch process and making it easier to work from a single source of truth. Do want to just remind you all that in addition to Bluebeam, we offer a number of solutions and services for the AEC space. So we are a certified Autodesk Gold partner. We not only sell the product, but also provide support and training. We are also involved in the manufacturing space. We are a certified SolidWorks partner as well, meaning that we, in addition to selling the software, also provide training and support As you know, we're a Bluebeam Platinum partner. We do have ongoing Bluebeam Essentials classes that we offer on a monthly basis. Those are great classes for new hires or just for existing users that are looking to improve the ways they're using the program, because Bluebeam is so versatile. I will make sure that we send out some information, but those do happen monthly. There's an Essentials Basic and Advanced. Our sister company, Treble was started by our president here at TPM. It is a CRM built on the Salesforce platform, completely customizable for the AEC space. It also integrates with much of the technology that you're probably already using. So something to be mindful of if you're looking for a tool or looking to improve the way you manage existing relationships, pursue projects. Treble would be a great program to consider. Finally, we are a Canon, HP, and Markforged dealer, so we do sell, support, and service all hardware for these three brands. That includes printers, plotters, copier, scanners, and last but not least, the Color Lab is a fantastic creative part of our business that produces exterior and interior graphics, designs, you name it, they can think it up. So again, everyone, really appreciate you taking the time to join this webinar. Hope you found it helpful and hope you have a great rest of your day.